This is CBC Here and Now.
Memorial University's Faculty Association is on strike. I'm Jeremy Eaton, and I'll have the details coming up.
It infuriates me to think that they could pull this over on the province of Newfoundland. This is our day.
The lawsuit challenging Qalipu band membership is back in court tomorrow. A woman advocating for Mi'kmaq people in this province speaks about why she fought to bring the case forward.
Can you describe that winning goal for me?
It was right after face-off, and I took it up on a breakaway and shot it low blocker.
He shoots, he scores. We take you to Labrador for a wrap-up of the mega hockey tournament. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. After last-minute negotiations failed, professors and faculty at the province's lone university hit the picket lines this morning. But it's not about the money, according to MUN's Faculty Association. It's about fair representation, with professors demanding more say in how the university is run. Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton spent some time on the picket line today chatting with strikers. He joins us now live from the university. So Jeremy, how was day one?
Well, day one, in a word, was wet. And it's only the second time in the university's history that the faculty and professors have gone on strike. And this happened after the two sides were unable to come to an agreement over the weekend, so talks broke off. So for the first time since the year 2000, Memorial University's Faculty Association hit the picket line at 8 o'clock this morning. Despite the snow, then the rain, the spirits of the strikers weren't as damp as their outfits.
As you can see and hear the honks, and from the faculty, we had student unions dropping food, we have NABE, QP, CLC, NDP dropping food, and parents dropping food. So it's been overwhelming support.
Nobody wants to be on strike in Newfoundland in January, but it's worth it. My unit's been cut 40% in the middle of a mental health crisis, so I'm more than willing to be on this picket line and to fight for quality education and support for our students.
What do we want? A fair deal! When do we want it? Now!
Moores is a psychologist in her 10th year on faculty at the Student Health and Wellness Center.
Definitely seen deterioration over time in terms of our ability to be a part of decision making, lots of trouble for our most vulnerable members, greater reliance on short-term contracts and far fewer permanent faculty positions, and it really puts the crunch on. So daily working life just continues to deteriorate.
MUN's offer includes a 12% salary increase over 4 years. That means the average tenured professor would go from making about $137,000 a year to more than $164,000 by 2026.
The union has insisted that it can't drop away from its 14% request on salaries spread over 4 years.
He says there's also concerns about post-employment benefits and
teaching stream faculty who are in contractual positions and are not automatically don't automatically have a path into a tenure track position.
Here, they say this strike isn't about the money.
It's a matter of principle. We are fighting for democracy, equality, and fairness. And Sunday morning, we gave them our package at 10 o'clock, 12:30. They said they cannot go anywhere. They just walked out.
Munfa wants a seat on the Board of Regents, something that Bose says the university agrees with, but that's under the province's jurisdiction.
But it's not our decision to be able to have someone just join the Board of Regents. So what we've done is make a request of the province for when they change the Memorial University Act, which is expected to be done sometime this year.
And representation matters to these picketers, an example being the recent $100,000 spent on an event on Fogo Island, which these folks say shouldn't have happened.
Quality of education, the future of our children and grandchildren. This is the only university in the province, right? All comes under the umbrella of governance, right? If we have a seat at the table, if we have some say, we could have objected to these things, right? If not stopped, we could have objected. So until
So until something changes, or unless something changes, people can expect to see the professors and faculty pacing the picket lines. Now, Hussein says he's urging the university to come back to the bargaining table so that they can work out a deal and get everybody back to work. And that's something that Bo says he wants as well. But caught in the middle of all this are the students, and we're going to get their reaction coming up later on in the show. Reporting live in St. John's, I'm Jeremy Eaton for Here and Now.
Well, on the west coast of the province, more than 90 MUMFA members are on strike today. The Grenfell campus of Memorial University saw faculty set up picket lines at 8 a.m. Here Now's Troy Turner was there.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, two-tier pensions have got to go.
They came prepared. A shelter was set up, fires were lit, and there was plenty of coffee and donuts to go around. MUNFA members, present and past, picketed entrances to Grenfell campus today.
Really, the contract issue is one of the most important here. We have a lot of folks who are teaching and have been teaching for years at Grenfell who are on 4-month contracts, 8-month contracts, 12-month contracts, and see no future to become tenure track or become more stably employed here.
Members say they stand in solidarity with those across the province. The issues are similar, but the Grenfell campus offers unique challenges.
The issue of collegial governance is a really huge one. We want to have more say in how our workplace is governed.
One of the differences for us out here on this side of the island is that we're often ignored by the administration, certainly the upper administration. We fought for a lot of years to get more autonomy so that the needs of our community as well as our students and our researchers have been well taken care of, and we still fight every day.
MUNFA members say they are getting plenty of support in the community and at Grenfell among the other unions and the students.
They are what keeps the school going, and I really appreciate our professors for trying to get what's right for them and also trying their best to work with us as students.
However, students are finding it tough to cross the picket line.
I feel really bad, honestly. It doesn't feel right, but I have to go to class. I can't be behind, especially when class is mandatory.
While MUNFA members here on the West Coast say they do not want to be on strike, they say the issues are important and they will remain out here on the picket line until they get a fair deal. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, stay with us. More for you on the strike at Memorial University. In about 25 minutes, as Jeremy mentioned a few moments ago, he'll be back to give us the student side of this strike. And I'll have an interview with the Canadian Association of University Teachers to better explain what seems to be the main sticking point in this strike: collegial governance.
Well, it certainly was a cold morning today across a good chunk of the island, as well as up across Labrador. In fact, some of the coldest air that we've seen so far this season, -42 in Lab City. That was the morning low, and those temperatures across the island were sitting around between -4 and about -10 or 12. And the Northern Peninsula, you tapped into some of that colder air, so about -18 in St. Anthony. Now, a lot of places in Lab West all measured into the -40s this morning, and there's a lot more where that came from. An area of low pressure offshore right now, but we've got lots of cold air in behind, and even more so if I zoom out this cold pocket. This is really technically the polar vortex, all the way down into the mid-states, and that is going to continue to head further east as we head through pretty much the whole week. By the time we get into Saturday timeframe is when we'll start to see some of that cold air across the island. As far as warnings go at the moment, we do have an extreme cold warning for Lab West. You're looking at your wind chills -40s and -50s. I'll get into the details coming up.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, some good news to share tonight. On Friday, the RCMP said a search was underway for 2 missing snowmobilers. They had left Northwest River on Wednesday and were headed for Rigolette. Search and rescue teams from Sheshatshiu and Rigolette had been deployed, and police say both men were found safe. And they thank everyone who helped in that search. Well, a lawsuit challenging Qalipu band membership resumes tomorrow. The trial is looking at the validity of the process used to enroll people in the group. Here Now's Mark Quinn spoke with one of the women who fought to bring the case forward.
Helen Darrigan has been advocating for Mi'kmaq people in this province for more than a decade. It's been a long road to this courtroom in St. John's, but her passion hasn't waned.
It infuriates me to think that they could pull this over on the province of Newfoundland. This is our day.
The plaintiffs in this case want the criteria used to restrict Qalipu band membership thrown out. Darrigan believes the historical wrong at the center of this case was denying that Indigenous people existed in this province when Newfoundland joined Canada.
It's caught up with them now, and they don't like the numbers, but, since 1949, easily 3 generations have passed. People are entitled to be recognized.
And in her view, the more recent wrong is the agreement Canada made with the Federation of Newfoundland Indians to keep membership in the Qalipu Mi'kmaq Band low. A supplemental agreement that came after more than 100,000 people applied to join. Darrigan says that second agreement is why she and others were able to raise almost $500,000 to bring this case to court.
Because people know what's happened is wrong. It's wrong on principle. And to have the federal government and the FNI sign a contract and then change it is... Financial markets would collapse if that happened. It's just preposterous.
Lawyers are set to begin their final arguments tomorrow. It could be several months before Justice Valerie Marshall hands down a decision. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, members of Team Broken Earth are fresh off a trip to rural Guatemala. The team has been providing medical support in far-reaching international locations for more than a decade. Earlier today, 2 members of the team spoke with our colleagues on the St. John's Morning Show.
Guatemala, like a lot of countries, have populations that are marginalized, and we have a lot of talent here, particularly at Memorial University, at the medical school. And so we go into a country with a partner, whether it's Haiti or Guatemala, and see what they need. And so our partner down there asked us to provide gynecological, plastic surgical reconstruction, orthopedic, and general surgery capacity. So that's what we've been doing for 5 years.
It was sort of a surgical triage mission, so we were trying to identify patients in the rural parts that we were in who needed surgery and refer them and set them up with surgery down the road. It was great to kind of just see so many patients that had very, obvious problems, and some of them had not been able to see a doctor about those at all at that point, or a nurse or any sort of practitioner. So to get to kind of see and meet so many patients that had those kind of issues and get to kind of say, yes, like this is something we can help you with, or this is not something surgical, but we can tell you what the next steps would be, it was super rewarding and amazing experience. Yep.
Yes, that's people ringing in the Lunar New Year in St. John's over the weekend. It's the first time there's been a local public event since the start of the pandemic. There was a lion dance performance and calligraphy demonstrations and a spread of traditional New Year foods like turnip cake and dumplings. More than 250 people came out to take part in the St. John's Farmers Market Sunday. The province's Chinese Association says it was thrilled with the turnout and grateful for the support. It was a mega event for Lake Melville this weekend. The Minor Hockey Association welcomed the return of the 17th annual mega tournament. Young players from all over Labrador took to the ice from Churchill Falls to Blanc-Sablon to Sheshatshiu. CBC video producer Dan Arsenault was there and caught some of the action.
My name is Brian Penny. Feels great. I got the winning goal.
Can you describe that winning goal for me?
It was right after face-off, and I took it up on a breakaway and shot it low blocker.
Is that a move you usually use?
No, I usually deep.
We have teams from Blanc-Sablon, Quebec, and we have Lab West, Churchill Falls, and Upper Lake Melville. And Upper Lake Melville teams are comprised of Goose Bay, Sheshatshiu, and Northwest River players. We invited the Torngettes, but unfortunately due to the high cost of travel, they weren't able to participate. So we're hoping next year they'll be able to come. We've had a lot of patrons in and out the whole weekend. Yesterday was our busiest day with 17 games. We started at 7, we finished just after midnight last night. So yesterday for me was a 14-hour day. I've heard someone else say they did 20 hours yesterday, so it's long days. They love it. Like, they're so happy to be here, and before COVID, you'd see the kids at the arena from the early morning right till late at night, and it's good to see that again.
We've taken to lighting up the night with pretty much a vengeance, really, to the point where we're causing harm to ourselves and the natural world around us.
The bright lights may now be off in the Outer Battery, but one group is calling on the City of St. John's to start regulating light pollution. Hear what the St. John's chapter of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada has to say. That's coming up.
We may have seen some rain today for parts of the province, but we do have a little bit of snow on the way as well as some cold temperatures. We'll get into the details coming up.
Fear and anxiety in the town of Placentia.
Getting the phone calls from elderly people and seniors, you know, having to talk about going to a doctor to get anxiety medication because they never experienced this before. Very, very troubling to hear.
It was the most horrific, terrifying experience in my life, and I'll never be the same as a result. My home is now in prison. I'm locked in my home with alarms and lights and locks all over the inside of my house. You know, it's insanity.
A string of sensational crimes has the mayor of Placentia calling for a more robust police presence. I'm Terry Roberts. That story tomorrow on Here and Now.
This weather forecast has been brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. Whatever you're up for this winter, discover experience packages at winterupnl.ca.
Well, kind of a strange day. Woke up to snow and then the rain really started coming down, and it's pretty mild out there too.
Yeah, it was pouring rain for a good chunk of the afternoon today. But yeah, it warmed up right along with it, although it still felt pretty chilly out there.
So wet.
Wet and damp, yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at those temperatures this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. Sitting around 6 degrees in St. John's, but Marystown took the top spot at 7 degrees. But you can see most of, well, pretty much the majority of the island, except the northern peninsula, was all above zero today. With the exception of Twillingate hovering around the 0 degree mark. But we do have lots of cold air, as I've been mentioning already, minus 21. So temperatures bottomed out last night at minus 42, I believe, or minus 43 for parts of Lab West, and you jumped up to about minus 21 this afternoon. Quite a big change for sure. But we do have these cold temperatures, and they are going to stick around for the near future, at least through most of this week. So here's that area of low pressure. That is what brought that snow and then eventually rain. But all of that rain, as you can see, has pushed offshore and will stay pretty quiet through the night tonight. But we do have that Arctic air filtering in across the big land, and like I said, we'll continue to do so. With that, though, we do have a bit of wind out there at the moment. 43 kilometer-per-hour sustained winds in Bonavista. Not a whole lot towards the west coast, but mainly for eastern portions of the island. About 26 kilometers per hour rather in St. John's. You factor in the wind gusts. You got wind gusts between 30 and about 40 kilometers per hour. So that is leading to a bit of a wind chill out there. Still up above zero, but those wind chills feeling more below zero, 1 or 2 degrees below zero, much less as you head towards the west coast. And then certainly up across Labrador, feeling more like minus 30 in Lab City at the moment, minus 33 in Nain. And those temperatures tonight going to drop again down to minus 39 in Lab City overnight tonight. Same thing for Nain at about minus 31. But we do have relatively light winds, so that is good news. And then across the island, we're looking at those temperatures dropping as well below zero for the most part. St. Anthony, you'll hover around minus 10. Now, it will take a little bit of time for those temperatures to drop, but we take a look at the wind chill outlook up across Labrador, minus 43 by the time we get into 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then even more so, this is really when those temperatures will start to drop across the island. But we're talking about those wind chills, minus 40 to minus 46 across the big land. So definitely some cold air, hence that extreme cold warning in place. Now, I do anticipate that this is going to spread further east as we head through the next couple of days as that cold air really starts to grip. So just taking a look at the future tracker, there's not a whole lot to talk about tonight. We may see a few flurries develop again along the west coast, nothing really too significant, but other than that, quiet. That will really be the story. And then as we head through tomorrow, quiet at least for the first part of the day, and then as we head towards the supper hour, we're looking at a little disturbance moving through, and this is going to bring some snow right along with it. Depending on the track, we may see some mixing, especially for extreme southeastern portions of the island, potentially the northwest Avalon, but overall, this will be a snow event, and we could pick up somewhere, this is just for tonight, like I said, trace to 2 centimeters, but for tomorrow, we're talking about potential for 5 to 10 centimeters of snow falling with that little disturbance. It moves through fairly quickly. Now, taking a look at the temperatures for tomorrow, though, they will be around zero or just below, with those winds generally light, 10 to 15 kilometers per hour, but that's the story pretty much across the board. And again, we'll see that snow move in late day. Otherwise, flurries, the story for Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor, with temperatures a couple of degrees below zero. And then as we head towards the west coast as well, similar temperatures. Your winds will be out of the northwest around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Northern Peninsula, you're a bit colder into the minus 8 to 10 degree range for the most part. Minus 16 in Marys Harbour, but that cold air Really gripping Labrador. Lots of sunshine though, so a typical Labrador day is a typical Labrador winter day, I should say. But again, relatively light winds. Still though, with these temperatures, we're talking about wind chills in the -30s and -40s. And this is something that I am going to talk a lot about, obviously, over the next couple of days. You're going to hear the wind chill word and also cold. So coming up a little later, I'm going to explain what wind chill is and have your long range forecast.
Well, the ultra bright lights in the outer battery remain off tonight. The lights have been a real sore spot in St. John's for months before being abruptly turned off on Friday. Colin Way, the man behind the lights, still hasn't said a word publicly, but many others are talking. The St. John's chapter of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada has asked City Council to start regulating light pollution. He spoke with Here and Now's Zach Gowdy.
We've taken to lighting up the night with pretty much a vengeance, really, to the point where we're causing harm to ourselves and the natural world around us. My name is Jerry Ennis. I've been a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, St. John Centre, for in excess of 20 years now. And maybe 15 years ago, give or take, I became interested in the subject of light pollution. Basically, it compromises our use of telescopes to go out and view the night sky and enjoy our hobby. People have a way of going overboard when it comes to the amount of lighting that they use outside at night.
Do you think regular people in urban environments realize just how much light pollution they're being exposed to all the time?
It's a form of pollution in a very real sense, but it's the effect is pretty insidious. The World Health Organization came out years ago and identified light pollution, this is artificial light at night, as a risk factor to diabetes, various heart conditions, and of course, sleep disorders, well known, cause all kinds of, besides the physical health problems, mental health problems as well. So it's having a major impact on us. And of course, the natural world around us is very much affected by all of this light as well. Thing is, humans and everything else living on the earth today evolved eons ago when there was a really sharp contrast between the light of day and the dark of night. We're hardwired. Our whole physiology is hardwired to this contrast, if you will. But, people just don't relate to how serious it is the way they do to, say, polluted water. As we're aware, it's not something that can be fixed very easily. If someone starts polluting a water system, okay, he gets nabbed pretty quickly. And that particular problem gets fixed. But there's no sort of mechanism in place that, okay, if someone is shining a bright light in your eyes, it doesn't seem to be a problem for anyone, except the guy just got to look at us and is blinded by it.
And the guy who's got the telescope, right?
For sure.
Well, as you can see, the lights are still on at Memorial University, but the Memorial University Faculty Association is on strike, so there's fewer people on campus, including students. We're going to hear how this strike is affecting them coming up.
Back to our top story. With MUNFA on strike, the majority of classes have been cancelled. That hasn't happened in over 20 years. Memorial's interim provost and vice president academic says it's the students who are caught in the middle of this labor dispute.
They haven't caused the issue, but they are impacted heavily by the issue. And so as an administration, we're doing our best to minimize the impact on students as much as possible. We'll do our very best to ensure that the semester will be completed and students in this semester can go on to the next semester, but it's also a graduation semester for many students, and we want to ensure that our students will graduate too.
And here now's Jeremy Eaton is back covering this story today. So Jeremy, what are students saying?
Well, Carolyn, as you can imagine, students are saying that this is affecting their education as well as access to other services that they normally get on campus. Now, earlier today, our colleague Amanda Gear went to the picket line to meet up with some students, and here's what they had to say.
I'm really kind of half and half. So I have a couple courses going ahead, a couple courses that are impacted. There's a lot of questions for all students, surrounding, accessibility of courses, ultimately, I think there's kind of a feeling that the administration should have planned more for this,
Is it all about the money? No!
It's certainly disruptive to my education, and MUN not reaching a fair deal with our teachers leaves us in a very tough spot. Some of our classes are going ahead, some are not. This is extremely confusing to students, and students like me are panicking. MUNFA members also include the Student Wellness and Counseling Centers, counselors, librarians. So students cannot access those emergency services. They cannot go to those mental health specialists. Also cannot access library to its fullest extent.
I think overall the big thing too we're all learning from this is how quickly we as a community were willing to come together to stand up for our profs and be with them, to stand in solidarity and make sure that they're getting what they deserve, being these amazing educators and academics that many of them are.
So in general, administration has the ability to make a fair deal, and they are withholding collegial governance, which is something that every other faculty in Canada has the ability to have within their university. So they have a say to sit on their Board of Regents, which is the big decision-making board at MUN. And I think that's something a lot of students aren't entirely aware of, is that this is not just about money.
I think it's a shame that the university is forcing students by academically punishing them if they do not choose to cross the picket line.
So while there are currently no picket lines set up now, they're going to run from about 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They will be back there tomorrow morning. Now, both sides are willing to resume talks so that they can try to put a resolution to this and get everyone back in the classroom. But the last time that this strike happened back in the year 2000, it lasted for 12 days. And that's something that neither the faculty, the university, nor students want to see happen again. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton in St. John's.
Well, let's stay with this story. The striking faculty says the main sticking point in bargaining is not money, but rather a seat at the decision-making table. They want a say in the governance of MUN, something called collegial governance. MUN has responded by saying it's open to the idea, but the sign-off has to come from the province through a change to the Memorial University Act. And joining me now is Peter McInnes in Nova Scotia. He's the president of the Canadian Association of University Teachers. So, Peter, if this were about money, it would be kind of simpler to understand, but can you help break this down for us? What is collegial governance?
Sure, happy to do that. So collegial governance, as Memorial Faculty Association has indicated, is something that isn't about money. It's just about a seat at the table in terms of making strategic decisions for the university. And as we know, Memorial has a special place in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador as the only university. And so it is really a public treasure and something that should be managed in the best way. So when we talk about collegial governance, it's not about the day-to-day decision making. And there's lots of administrators to do that, from the president to the various deans, but it's about participating in the Board of Regents or the Senate, and it's getting ideas from faculty in a way that'll be meaningful. And so I would point out that Memorial, and it could be from its founding documents, but it is something of an outlier. In many universities, collegial governance is much more a fact of day-to-day existence.
When you say many other universities, so this is kind of an unusual thing to not have collegial governance in a university.
To have that much resistance to an idea that really doesn't have a lot of financial implications, it is a bit odd. And also who's excluded from the union, department heads are excluded. It's a kind of strange arrangement, and just because it's been in place for a long time doesn't mean that it couldn't be changed in this round of contract negotiations.
Can you give us a sense of how much of a say professors have in administrative decisions currently?
Well, from what I understand, and I have a little bit of a background on this myself. I'm a MUN alumnus, but it was from some years ago. There wasn't a lot, and it's an odd kind of gap because, as we said, professors have a lot of value to add. We have a lot of experience, not only in our areas of specialty, but just how the university runs. And so if we're consulted in a way that is meaningful at an appropriate point in the ideas of decision making and strategic planning, we can really help the university achieve its mission.
Mm-hmm. And why is having a say in the future of Memorial University so important to the faculty?
Well, as you're well aware, and of course people will be, that there's been a lot of pressures on the provincial government in Newfoundland, and education is only one demand, healthcare is being another one. But you really want to make the right decisions at the right time, because the consequences of making poor decisions can be quite profound and long-lasting. So again, here's a resource. Faculty are willing, able to have really a substantive process of helping out. So they should be asked to do that role. They want to do it, so bring them to the table.
How much of a deal breaker do you think is this kind of an issue? Because if they were to change it, of course, there has to be a legislative change. That takes time. How long would they be willing to stay on the street for this issue, do you think?
Well, it's we'll see. I mean, there's often a lot of talk in either directions about how long the conflicts will go on. They tend to go on as long as the two sides are at an impasse. And my sense is that the Memorial University administration could really sharpen their pencils and come to the table and embrace some of these ideas that, as we said, don't have a lot of financial implications. And they have a close connection with the provincial government. And again, being the only university in the province, it's really important. It's an important economic driver. So I think they could make some progress really quickly. That this shouldn't be something that would be weeks in the making.
Well, Peter McInnes, I really appreciate your time and your thoughts on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
the federal parliament is back in session. MPs are in Ottawa after a 6-week break. Healthcare seems to be top of the agenda, with the Prime Minister meeting next week with the premiers. The leader of the NDP said today he's concerned about the push from some premiers to allow private companies to deliver more services.
In the last election, the Prime Minister made a really big deal of calling out the Conservatives for proposing the idea of bringing in more for-profit, private health care. But now when Doug Ford is doing exactly that, he's calling it innovation.
We will ensure that the Canada Health Act is fully respected. In the past, this government has pulled back money from provinces that haven't respected it. We will continue to do that.
The premiers said today that they want Ottawa to increase healthcare transfers by 13%. Quebec Cardinal Marc Ouellet is retiring. The Vatican today said he will step down in the spring because he's 78 years old, 3 years past the age when bishops normally retire. Ouellet has faced allegations of sexual misconduct dating back to his time as Archbishop of Quebec. He was in that role from 2003 to 2010. Ouellet has denied the claims. They surfaced last summer in a class action lawsuit against the Archdiocese of Quebec. The Vatican launched an investigation and decided, quote, not to retain the accusation against the cardinal. Ouellet says he will continue to work for the church, focusing on efforts to support those called to the priesthood. A legendary hockey player, Bobby Hull, has died. Hull, who played professional hockey from 1957 to 1980, helped the Chicago Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup in 1961. He was also named the NHL's most valuable player twice and won the league scoring title 3 times. Hull was one of the most prolific goal scorers in the NHL history. We'll have more on the life of Bobby Hull before the end of the show. Well, if you want to keep health risks low, new guidelines suggest having no more than 2 alcoholic drinks a week. That's according to the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction. So how smoothly is that suggestion going down? New Brunswick video journalist Anyakin Tube went out to find out.
Well, at the end of the day, you can't eat meat anymore. You can't have a few drinks. You can't smoke anything. So, yeah, we're just going to stand there and breathe. So, you got to do something, man. So, you just live once.
Well, the Canada Centre on Substance Use and Addiction says to avoid cancer, you can't have more than 2 drinks in a week.
If that's what these people think is best for people's health, that is up to a person to decide whether or not they want to follow that.
They've been trying to knock down us the drinking for years now, so I really don't like it's. I don't like it.
It's around 5 to 10.
I'd usually have maybe 1 or 2 max. Truthfully, funnily enough.
1 ounce of our Sapa rum could classify as a drink, and then if we're looking at our sticky toffee, it would be about 2 ounces because of different alcohol percent. So that's just something to keep in mind when they're defining what a drink is. 1 for this spirit and 2 for this spirit, so it's different volume, right?
According to Health Canada, a drink is measured by the quantity of alcohol in it. For example, 12 ounces of beer with 5% alcohol is a drink. If your choice is wine, then a drink is 5 ounces at 12% alcohol. Also, a shot of spirits with 40% alcohol is 1 drink.
With the new guidelines coming out and really pointing a finger at how bad alcohol it is, it's a good thing overall to let people know that this is a problem. And it's a good thing to let people know that the low number of drinks is a threshold for causing those problems. So it's good information for people. Now, that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that people are still going to live. People are still going to socialize. People are still going to drink. And that's not going to stop.
To take a historical perspective, people have been drinking alcohol for thousands of years. I'm not sure that all of a sudden that's something that causes cancer. I think it would probably be more appropriate to look at the grains and hops used.
We're already in the the highest regulated jurisdiction in the Western world. The last thing we need is more restrictions on alcohol.
Putting labels on alcohol like, hey, beware of cancer. What do you think of that?
Oh, well, they do what they want. That'll be a shame, especially when you buy, some good Scotch whiskey like that. Marketing is important. Looks neat. If they put some, I don't know, like a broken stomach or anything like that on there, it's going to be disgusting.
As I mentioned earlier, legendary hockey player Bobby Hull has died. He was named the NHL's most valuable player twice and was a fan favorite. But as Karen Pauls reports, Hull was also a controversial figure.
That speed and slap shot is what made Bobby Hull a scoring sensation.
Well, Bobby Hull was a player who used every inch of the ice back when he played. But more importantly, he had a slap shot that was caught at going 118 miles an hour.
In 1961, Hull helped lead Chicago to its first Stanley Cup in 23 years. He was the first NHL player to score more than 50 goals in a single season. He's still 55th on the NHL's all-time scoring list.
I'm sure that our league is going to get under motion and we're going to have some real fine hockey.
In 1972, Hull became the first hockey player to earn $1 million, leaving the NHL to sign with the Winnipeg Jets of the upstart World Hockey Association.
Bobby Hull was arguably the greatest hockey player around in the late 60s and early 70s.
A golden jet on the ice, a fan favorite off the ice. But there was controversy too.
There were documented episodes of violence against his second wife, Joanne, that he did not deny and in fact, confirmed in court.
Although Hull denied it later, he allegedly told an English-language newspaper in Russia that Hitler had some good ideas, but went a little bit too far.
You could make a case that he's the most influential figure in hockey history to that point, and really he should be in the conversation with Gretzky in terms of his influence, but he's not, and it's simply because of the personal history that has come out.
Hey Joe, how you doing?
Well, it's a sad day, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
But that's not what Hull's former teammates are remembering him for.
Most of the goaltenders he faced were a little scared of, and they didn't like that slap shot coming at their head.
I had my eyes shut most of the time, so I really don't know.
An influence on current Jets too.
He was a great player for this organization, but also in terms of building and making and helping what the NHL is today.
It's an unreal hockey player. It's obviously the stats will speak for itself.
The Winnipeg Jets are planning a memorial ahead of tonight's game. Bobby Hull was 84. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, I can't get over the difference in temperature between the eastern part of the province, where we're like 5-6 degrees, and Labrador.
Yeah.
What a difference.
Yeah, and we've got a lot more where that came from. And I'm going to be mentioning the word wind chill a lot, which I'm sure some of you know what the wind chill is, but let's do a little explainer just to really nail it in as to what a wind chill is. So what happens is our bodies lose heat through convection. And if the temperature outside's -20 and there's no wind, then that layer around us stays right around us and it helps us stay warmer. However, when there is wind, then say about 20 kilometers per hour, the moving air breaks up that layer of heat around us, which makes us feel colder much faster. So we, the -20 temperature outside, combine that with a 20 kilometer per hour wind, it now feels like -30 out. So this is certainly something that is going to happen as we head through the next couple of days, because we're going to set the stage certainly into Friday for a windy weekend pretty much across the board. Now, at this point, we've still got that cold air up across Labrador Friday. That's starting to edge in for the west coast through the evening hours on Friday, but we're going to see a bit of a warm up for the eastern half of the island. So what does fall, should fall, is rain as we get into the evening hours. Now, this area of low pressure will be over Labrador, and this is going to bring some really windy conditions. Now, these black lines here are isobars, and the tighter they are together, the stronger the wind. So watch what happens as we head through the weekend. We're going to see these isobars quite tight, which means we're going to see this cold air, windy conditions, and very cold wind chills. We're also going to see the potential for some squalls on the west coast as we head through the weekend as well, which could bring some significant snowfall. But then as we head into Monday, again, we're going to see a bit of a warm up, at least for eastern Newfoundland, and we're going to see some more rain move in with snow, the story for pretty much the rest of the island and then up across Labrador. Taking a look at the long-range forecast, you can see those temperatures back up on Friday, but again, it's going to start those windy conditions. And there's that drop in temperatures on Saturday, down to -8. Overnight lows likely a little colder than that, but around -12 at this point. You factor in the wind chill, it will feel more like the -20s, which is some of the coldest air that we have seen so far this year. Now for central Newfoundland, look at those temperatures on Saturday, -12, -13, windy conditions as well. Again, those squalls, the story for western Newfoundland. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at some light snow on Friday, windy and snow again on Saturday. And then western Labrador temperatures are going to stay in the -20s, even -26 to -28, with those overnight lows very cold into the -30s. Just before we leave you tonight, I had to share a shot of the cold air, but this is a wintry sunset in Postville. Thank you so much for that great shot. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Ooh, that looks cold.
It does look cold.
It doesn't look like there's too much wind on the go there.
No.
I love those little science explainers, I must say.
Hopefully it was understandable.
It was. It was Perfect. Like wearing a sweater and then not wearing a sweater.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, that's it for us on this Monday. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.